Hello. In this video, we're going to write this simple tool that I've asked my students to write in class called findModSum2. And so this is a modification of a simple sum function. And the method takes a list of integers and two integer values. The method returns a sum of all the elements that are between A exclusive and B exclusive. So we see here there's the name, there are the parameters. And I tend, when I'm working with students, to put indicate this as list and or the type, because it just helps when you're trying to work through these. It returns an int, and the precondition is that data is a list of integers. A and B are both integers. So if you look at an example here, if we have this list and we have 5 and 25, we see that we're going to add 10, 9, and 14, because those are the only values in the list that are within that range. Okay, so one of the things when I was working with students on this, the first thing they say is, can we assume that A is less than B? And initially, let's do that. Let's assume that A is less than B. And then once we've done the problem, we'll modify it, and then we'll look at how to manage that if we didn't know that. So this is a modified sum. So we're going to make a variable called sum and set it to 0. And we're going to write a standard loop. So for I in range 0, length of data, and 1. Now, I get a lot of comments from this both in class and sometimes on my channel about why am I writing this big long loop structure. There's all sorts of shorthand for this. I do this intentionally because it really helps when you're trying to translate into another language. You know, Python is one of those languages that has a lot of shorthand notations that are really useful, but sometimes when you try and translate to other languages, it makes the more common way of writing things not as clear. So of course you can use a shorthand here, but I like to use this long format where this is my starting value. The loop will continue as long as I is less than that, and it will increment by 1 each time. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to say if A is less than data at I, which is less than B. And again, this is a nice shorthand notation that you can use in Python that isn't supported in a lot of other languages, but it's a direct mathematical notation. So this indicates that data at I, so the value at I has to be between A and B, and sum is equal to sum plus data at I. And now that I've done that, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to return sum. So if I save this, and we're going to give it a run, so we're going to say Python 3, and this is findModSum2.py, we get that 33 there, which we can confirm is the correct value. Now, of course, I would always recommend doing a couple of test cases that check different situations. So an empty list, a really long list, short list, something where, for example, there's nothing. So let's check a case where there's no values within the range. So let's put 1 and 1 here, because there's nothing between 1 and 1, and therefore the sum should be 0. So if we come out here and we run this again, we get 0. And this is really important when you're developing test cases to create a variety of test cases that test different situations. All right, so now let's just take a second and do a couple things to this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a more standard notation here, in case you want to program in other languages, and that is to check if data at I is between A and B, but we're going to break it up using a Boolean operator. So I'm going to say if data is less than A, if data is greater than A, pardon me, and data is less than B. Data at I is less than B, pardon me. So now this is saying if data at I is greater than A and data at I is less than B, then we're going to add the sum. Again, either notation works. This is just a more common notation that's used in other languages. And if we put our original test case back in there and give this a whirl, it works fine. So now, what about the situation where I have a precondition, perhaps where A is less than B, where we don't know that? Well, in that case, what I can do is I'm going to set large equal to max AB, and I'm going to set small equal to min AB. And this is a nice way of just using the max and min function, and it's going to assign the larger of the two values to large and the smaller of the two values to min, so to small. Be careful here. What students do sometimes is they use max and min as variable names, and Python can be a little finicky with that, so make sure you don't use a function name as a variable name. So we're going to make this large. And now a special thank you. I actually had done this video already, and someone didn't correct me, they asked me very politely, which I really appreciated, if I had made a mistake, and I had. Because now that I have this large and small value, I have to actually translate it into here. This should be small. So as long as data I is greater than small, and data I is less than large. And now if I save this, and we come in here and we give this a run, we get 33. But look at the beautiful part here is that I can actually change the order of A and B, and I get the same value. So I hope that video helped. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great day.